Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, the author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy, novels, and short stories. With me today is Sam West, and we're going to be talking about the spell Dancing Lights. Once again, this is a spell I'm coming in thinking is pretty good, and I think Sam's going to disagree with me. Sam?
I would agree that it's pretty good. I think that's as far as I'll say it's good. I think that this is a very innocent spell that is one of a series of spells that are fine to take, and it has a little bit of upside over some of the other options. That's where I think this is. I don't think it's particularly useful. I think most games aren't going to need it, but it is a fun, cute little spell to have that isn't going to hurt your character.
All right, let's talk about first how, I guess the obvious comparison is light.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah. All right, let's talk about how they differ.
Okay. So light gives you a brighter area in a single space. Light doesn't eat your concentration, which is huge. Light lasts an hour, but dancing lights can go into 4 different spaces within 20 feet of each other. So you can do like 20-foot lines of just do, if you want to light up a larger space, with a little bit of pocket of darkness in between. If you space these all 10 feet apart, if you space these all exactly 20 feet apart, they will be 10 feet of light, dim light, a whole 80 feet wide. So it covers a pretty large area if you want to, as long as it's within 120 feet of you, which it can be within 80 feet range. You can also send them out to light up different areas as you see. They're basically little fireflies you have on command that can go out and light different areas where light, you kind of have to get the objects where you want them. So like putting light on a rock and chucking it is the way you can use light to move and light up different areas. It's going to often cover less of a space. I think the spell's a little bit better than light in that instance. As far as practical applications of dungeon delving goes, there's only really so much you can ask for light spells. This spell helps me, at least as a player, want to take it because it has a little cosmetic element to it. I think there's a series of cantrips that I refer to kind of as the cosmetic cantrips. These are ones that largely just affect how your character looks and feels, like thaumaturgy, prestidigitation, shape water, mold earth, that kind of stuff. And while they can have some practical uses, the most of the time you're using them to be like, I want to be the waterbender, or I want to be the wizardiest wizard that pulls rabbits out of hats, right? Those are what I think the spells predominantly do. And this fits into that kind of. This lets you play a little bit of a fairy trickster. This lets you play a little bit of underdark, gloomy look if you want. You can fit the magical shaping of a humanoid with the lights to be a kind of cosmetic attachment that can make the spell give your character a feel you're looking for, more so than a practical effect that's probably easily replaced by torches.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up later, but what is the deal with that last part of the spell?
Yeah, it
vaguely humanoid shape. That all right, you seem to have some idea of what that's meant for, but I for the life of me cannot figure it out.
What it's meant for, I've got no idea. What I read it as is kind of like I'm envisioning it as fairy magic trying to allure creatures into the woods to eat later, or fairy magic used to like lead children to safety kind of deal. I view it as sort of a harmless sensory effect that's goal is to, you see it out of like the corner of your eye and you're like, was that a person? I couldn't really tell, but it was glowing, and you turn and follow it. It's sort of the mystical lights of the forest kind of deal is the vibe I pick up off of it.
See, I figure just regular dancing lights on its own, oh look, there's a light over there. I don't care if it's person shaped or not. If I want to follow it, I'm gonna follow it. If I think it means danger, I'm not gonna follow it.
I will say you also have the neat little option of, because it's vaguely humanoid, I take a lot of liberty with it. I think players can take a lot of liberty with it, where you can be like, I want to depict the actions that I saw prior in light. You can do that with this conceivably, make a vaguely humanoid shape, holding a sword, stabbing into nothing, and then be like, it stabs the dragon. You use it as part of storytelling for your bards or whatever. Yeah. It has other niche cosmetic uses like that. You can even do it like if you're playing the bard that's making fun of people, you just make the lights become the illusion of the person behind them and mock them with like little either puppeteer arms or dancing and doing funny stuff behind whatever character you're mocking. It's got that kind of niche use too, right? Not particularly relevant or all that important, but it's something that you can be like, oh, I want to play this specific kind of character. I know people that want to play that specific kind of character. The humanoid form does give it some more semblance of life for that reason. Plus also just like having 4 orbs of light that you can dance around and make them act kind of like what are the will-o'-the-wisps, whatever they're called,
Right.
little light balls that are super evil, or you can have them facilitate that experience too, little firefly-esque lights floating about the place. That's the sort of feel that I think the spell's trying to get you to envision. Practical usage.
See, I like the nothing practical.
It's a dungeon delving tool from older editions, what it feels like. If you're playing with a bunch of humans and halflings, yeah, this works. If you're playing with someone with dark vision and a torch, this is probably worthless.
See, I'm thinking more like, you're out in the woods and you come upon a bandit campsite and it's dark, and you cast these, you send four lights out, try and lure them out, or a couple of them or something like that.
Yeah,
I
mean,
know.
a thrown rock can probably do a similar effect, but there are mundane ways to repeat this effect, I think, is where I stand on it. And that's not necessarily a bad
in the
thing.
darkness, you can notice that from a lot farther away.
It is a dim light for what that's worth. So that's not
Yeah.
necessarily even that given. Especially in if it's a bright moonlit night, a light in the distance may not be all that noticeable, especially in certain situations. But sure, you're right that it could be something that there's something very clearly mysterious going on. How things respond to that is going to differ person to person and DM to DM.
Right.
That is something you can consider. Minor illusions going to do something very similar to that specific use case, and that's a pretty niche use of this anyway. Which it's not something that it can't do. It's just something that isn't necessarily given that's going to work, right?
No, yeah, I actually have never used it that way, but when I think about the spell, that's how I think of it being used. And,
I will say, if you're playing on Roll20, if you're playing on digital clients, this is a really convenient spell because it gives you 4 areas of 10-foot light that just covers what you need to see. And that's handy. That's convenient in dark dungeon delving. In theater of the mind exploration, in tabletop exploration, where a lot of the times how you play the game shapes the maps that you're going into because of what you want to deal with and what digital and manual maps can cover that theater of the mind or smaller like whiteboards can handle. It's very differing as far as what you're willing to sort of try and make work. The more complex the spaces, the more spaces you want to light up, the better the spell will be, just because you have the ability to keep tabs on a widespread area. If you're fighting against a monster that's climbing on the walls, hiding in the darkness with dark vision and no one else can see it, this is a way to cover more space. And that is a useful tool. That's not negligible, right? That's probably better than a single torch. It's not that much better than 4 torches. In fact, it's quite a bit worse than 4 torches, but that does require you setting up more time and throwing them out and a bunch of other stuff like that, right?
Also, consider if you're in this big, giant, cavernous room in a dungeon, you can cover 4 exits. You don't necessarily need to have bright light to tell if somebody's coming in after you.
Yeah, I mean, those exits all have to be within 20 feet of each other, but yeah. That is,
all right, 20 feet of each other. That's true.
Yeah, it can be 120 feet of you, but they have to be 20 feet within each other. That's still a practical use case for this. This is never going to be a cantrip that you're going to be like, oh my god, that was so powerful. I don't think. I do think this is comparable to the power level of light, in that light, you light something up and you drop it on the hole. So pardon, light's the thing that you just have repeatable unending torches. It's brighter light. It sheds in a specific area. You can leave at specific places. It isn't that much different. I think this probably ekes it out by a smidgen being better because the area control you get is moderately useful and is more likely to have an impact than not. But that's still going to be so few games, like presently playing with the expanded races and everything like that. You're rarely seeing games where most of the party doesn't have dark vision. And when most of the party has dark vision, one person not having dark vision just means everyone has dark vision, right? It's what it boils down to, is very rarely getting dungeoning or going into environments where darkness is a real problem anymore, because so many people already have that problem solved and they don't want to have to be like, I guess you'll just hold onto my arm and I'll walk you through all of this and your specific character won't have any fun because they're still dealing with darkness and we don't want the downside of carrying around a beacon that says we're here. Like most encounters a lot of modern tables are going to shape around, well, if most people have dark vision, darkness isn't a problem, then I'm willing to throw the party as an issue anymore. It's mostly going to be, you're going into a lot of environments already. Light's becoming less and less and less and less important, especially in the more, again, I like to refer to it kind of as a Marvel-y gameplay style where you're the big action set pieces, you're the big epic scale adventures. things tend to be relatively well lit up. The delving into darkness and mitigating specific exploration elements are slowly weaning out and being further away from the modern way people I think are largely playing. But I could be wrong. I'm sure there are lots of tables that do like to play the old dungeoneering way, where you're playing with dwarves or humans at halflings and the occasional dragonborn that can't see in the dark, and everyone's just like, yep, we need to manage our light and we need to know where things are and we need to try and fight against the darkness. And that's a cool experience. And this spell's good in that experience. But that's really the only place it's good at.
Yeah, I won't disagree with anything you said, but yeah, well, I mean, you didn't actually come out and say it's bad, so
yeah, it's fine.
We're not arguing. Yeah. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah,
like you said, cute, innocent. And you gave me ideas for that humanoid shape bullshit at the end.
Find some weird ways to use that, right?
Yeah.
This is definitely a 2 out of 5 spell. This is a cantrip that you definitely don't need, but it's fine if you have it. If you're in the dungeon delving game, it's probably a 3 out of 5. It's probably moderately better than 4.
All right, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. Well, that's Dancing Lights, everyone. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, listeners and watchers, for listening and watching. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, our full review of the spell, and other fun things.